And I noticed changes almost immediately. I started sleeping better than I'd ever slept. I noticed that my skin started to look better. My mood was better. My head was clearer and my stomach stopped hurting. I did not have tummy aches. I didn't have bloating. I didn't have bouts of diarrhea, which often when you eat a lot of fast food, you get frequently.
Welcome to the Plant-Based Eating Made Easy podcast. I'm your host, Anna Zinn, plant-based registered dietitian and transition coach. Hi, friend. Do you want to regain your health with plant-based eating but feel overwhelmed and lost about how to do it? Do you feel it'll be hard to change your meat-heavy diet and impossible with working, running the home, or chasing after the grandkids? If so, you're in the right place. Here you'll find simple strategies, clear nutrition guidance, and practical tips to help you thrive plant-powered with more energy. So if you're ready to ditch the guesswork and transform your health the stress-free way, cozy up now with a hot cup of tea or listen while you walk, and let me show you how doable plant-based eating can be. Let's do this. Hi, friend. Welcome to this episode. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome another special guest and member of my Beginners for Plant-Based Diet Success Facebook group to this podcast, Winnona. Winnona has kindly agreed to be here to share her experience eating a plant-based diet and how it has impacted her health over the last 3 months, especially given her multiple prior health conditions and diagnoses. So hello, Winnona. I'm so thrilled to have you come onto the Plant-Based Eating Made Easy podcast. To start us off, could you tell us just a little bit about yourself and your background?
Well, I'm 52 years old. I am a retired veterinary technician, and now I'm a professional pet sitter. I am a mother, and also I am a new grandmother. I have a now 10-month-old grandbaby, and I'm loving life.
That's fantastic, Winnona. Congratulations on being a new grandmother. What's her name?
Her name is Cora.
Oh, such a beautiful name, Cora. Do they live close to you?
They live about 45 minutes away from me, but they come up at least once a month so I can see the baby.
That's great. I'm glad your daughter at least is not that far away from you so that you can still see each other. So, could you maybe go into a bit about what your lifestyle was like before you moved to a plant-based diet?
Oh, wow. It was horrible. I never really had a very good diet. Growing up, my mother was always working. She was a single mother. She was always working, always gone. So I just ate what was in the house. And if I had money, I went down to McDonald's and got something to eat. So I've never really had a very good diet. That translated when I got pregnant with my daughter. I got gestational diabetes and was told that I'd probably have about a 75% chance of having diabetes when I got older. So I just kind of took that as that's how it's going to be when I get older. And then as I started my career in veterinary technology, I worked mostly in emergency rooms. So but you have scheduled breaks. However, sometimes you don't always get to take those breaks. And sometimes it's just easier for someone to run over to Subway and get something for the whole crew. And then you just eat as you're working. So I've never really had a very good diet. When I started getting older, I started roller skating. I fell back in love with roller skating and started kind of getting interested in my body again because I wanted to keep roller skating. I wanted to get better. I wanted to get stronger. I wanted to roller skate longer. So I started doing things that mainstream doctors tell you to do. Since I was exercising, I started eating a lot more protein. And then I found the keto diet. And I went on the keto diet. I've always been a little bit overweight, about 30 pounds I could lose. When I started the keto diet, I lost that weight so fast and got very thin. But one of the things I didn't like about keto was after you eat a lot of fat and a lot of meat, you kind of get sick of it and you really start craving just an apple. But they always tell you fruit's got sugar in it. You shouldn't be eating oranges and apples. You got to, watch your sugar. So I thought I was doing the right thing until I just started really getting dizzy and I found I could not skate as long. I was not getting stronger. I was losing muscle. And so I was starting to really get weak. And then when I would skate, I could feel my heart beating super fast. And so I felt like that wasn't for me. And then I broke my ankle. So I was laid up for about 12 weeks to where I couldn't really roller skate. I couldn't do a lot of exercising. I could still stretch, but in the beginning it was painful. And so I just started going back to eating how I was eating before. I was going to McDonald's. I would eat apples if I wanted to. And I went to the doctor after my ankle started healing. And this was May of 2023. My doctor said, your cholesterol is really high. You need to get control of your cholesterol. And my A1C, he said it was creeping up there. So I had to be careful of that. So in May of 2023, my cholesterol was at 236, my total cholesterol, and my LDL cholesterol was at 142. I honestly can't remember what my A1C was back then, but then I went back to the doctor in December and they redid my blood. They just did my A1C because he was concerned about diabetes and it was 7.1. And he said, you have diabetes. So at that point, I decided I've got to figure something out. My friend Peggy told me about plant-based whole foods. And so I started looking into it and I read the China study and I watched Forks Over Knives and I started thinking, it kind of makes sense that diabetes type 2 is insulin resistance. And what is causing the resistance? So December 27th was the day I decided to go whole food plant-based. And I did it overnight. I dropped meat overnight. I looked up how long it would take for dairy and eggs to leave my body. And Google said 21 days. So I said, I can give it 3 weeks. I'll give it 3 weeks and see how I feel. And I noticed changes almost immediately. So the first week of January, I started sleeping better than I'd ever slept. I was going to sleep and I was waking up. I was not grumpy. I was not groggy. I noticed that my skin started to look better. I also have a skin condition called hidradenitis suppurativa, which I've had my entire life. And I've always dealt with flare ups and inflammation, and I would get them underneath my armpits, and to the point where they would get to be the size of a golf ball and hurt really bad. And I noticed that those were getting so much smaller than I'd ever had after using antibiotics and antibiotic soap. I just noticed that as the days were going by, I was noticing improvements. My mood was better, my head was clearer, and my stomach stopped hurting. I did not have tummy aches. I didn't have bloating. I didn't have bouts of diarrhea, which often when you eat a lot of fast food, you get frequently. And so I was like, this is working. Something's happening. Then I got a glucose monitor probably about after 3 weeks, and I started checking my glucose. And so I would check for a fasting glucose, and then I would check in the evening after my dinner just to see what was going on. And at the end of January, I was probably sometimes 180, 140. But I noticed as the weeks went by, it would go down and down. So now when I do it, the highest it will go is 130, and the lowest it's gone is 104. So technically, I've only been doing plant-based whole food for almost 3 months. And I just recently had my blood done and my cholesterol went down. So I went from 236 total cholesterol to 180. My LDL cholesterol went from 142 to 99. And my A1C went from 7.1 to 6.2. So I know it's doing something for me. And to be honest with you, I haven't done anything except change the way I eat. I do as close to whole food as I can, but I kind of still feel I'm in a transition period because I'm not completely comfortable with what I'm doing and what I'm learning. But I know more almost 3 months later than I did at the end of December. So while I'm still transitioning, I am still eating some of the packaged vegan foods, which as I go along, I'm finding alternatives and whole food ways of making them. So then I can give up those packaged foods and just focus more on whole foods. So I'm really, really happy with the result. And I don't miss animal-based products at all. I don't miss cheese. I don't miss meat. I actually prefer eating some of the foods now that I never ate before. I didn't really care for meatloaf before, but show me a lentil loaf and I'm there. I will eat it and I'll have 2 pieces.
Thanks for sharing that, Winona. It's just fascinating to hear your story. And I love how you say how your taste buds have changed. And you're not the first to say that. I've heard that from my clients and from guests on this podcast. Many people are worried about plant-based foods being bland, being tasteless. They're worried that they won't be able to stay consistent eating this way. But there's two things there. One is that it's how you cook the foods, how you season it, and the flavors you add to it. And the second is just allowing your taste buds to adapt to the natural flavors and taste and the sweetness and the textures. Just a wonderful, rich variety that you can find in the plant based world. And your taste buds will continually get sharpened in a way and more sensitized as you eat more and more whole plant based foods because the foods are not coated with so much oil, salt, sugar as highly processed foods are. So it's lovely to hear how now you're craving a lentil meatloaf compared to the actual meatloaf or other animal-based foods. So you mentioned before that you had a lot of bloating and tummy aches and bouts of diarrhea. Was this a kind of long-standing issue since you were growing up?
Yeah, I had stomach issues pretty much all my life. I mean, it was pretty constant because of the way I ate. I didn't eat well at all.
So it's even more remarkable that after you moved to a whole food plant-based diet that these tummy issues went away. And it sounds like it went away quite fast. Did you have any kind of gut transition issues?
I didn't have that issue at all. I will say that pretty much within the first week of going whole food plant-based, my stomach started to settle down, and I noticed that when I ate, I was not getting bloated. But I didn't eat a lot of salads. I focused on a lot of grains and legumes that first week just because I was hungry. I was so used to being able to eat a Big Mac meal and then some that I was worried that I wasn't going to have enough to eat. So I really tried with the high fiber foods. And I don't know why I didn't have stomach issues, but I didn't have stomach issues at all at the beginning, and it's only gotten better since then.
That's fantastic to hear. For some people, they do have that little bit of a transition period, but it sounds like for you, your gut problems really got so much better just from making that switch to removing animal-based foods. You said that you made that complete switch December 27th and you took away meats. So it sounds like you also took away all the dairy products. Is that right?
Yes, I stopped eating eggs, I stopped milk, cheese, meat, any of that. I stopped all of it. I just completely gave it up and just focused totally on plant-based whole foods.
That's definitely a big complete switch. And I applaud you for doing that. For some people, a much slower transition works, but every person is different. And I've known others like you who've just made that switch. The benefits of doing that is that you can start seeing much faster health benefits, which it sounds like that's what you had with sleeping better, your skin looking better, and less flare ups with your skin condition as well. And of course, your stomach and your gut getting better. So going back to before in your previous lifestyle, you mentioned how into roller skating you were and how there was a period of time you were on the keto diet. How long were you on the keto diet?
I was on the keto diet a total of about 8 months.
Okay, and during that time, it sounds like you were noticing that huge weight loss, which is one of the noted benefits of being on the keto diet. But you also noticed a lot of side effects or things that you weren't so happy with. You mentioned, I think, losing muscle, feeling weaker, and your heart was beating faster, and then you broke your ankle. So, was this all while you were still on the keto diet?
This was all while I was on the keto diet. And actually, I'd never had an issue with my cholesterol in any of my previous blood chemistry appointments until I did keto. So I don't know if there is a correlation between the two, but after I broke my ankle, stopped the keto diet, and then went back to have my blood done, then is when I was warned that I had a cholesterol issue. So I can't imagine that eating a lot of fat and the meats that I was probably did contribute to that.
I think it may have. And the fact that it got to the point of 236, you said, and your LDL was 142. So it had really raised those levels. And it sounds like during this period of time, your A1C, your blood sugars, was also kind of starting to be an issue as well.
Yes, I believe it was, especially after I stopped keto. Of course, I wanted to start eating bread again because I had missed it so much. I think that's the best part about eating plant-based whole foods is I can have really good bread with sprouts and grains in it. I don't really care for a white bread. I never have anyway, but that's the best thing. And I can eat apples and oranges and all of the foods I crave. I don't crave meat and I don't crave dairy and I don't crave cheese or eggs. So that's the best part for me.
And we see evidence of the benefits of eating the whole food plant based way on your blood sugars. As you mentioned, how they had been steadily coming down. We see that with your fasting and your after dinner blood sugar levels and in your hemoglobin A1C, how it had really come down within 3 months. It's interesting too with the breads, with how you can still enjoy your breads on a whole food plant based diet. It's just that it's recommended to get the nutrient dense, good quality breads. So those that are sprouted, not white breads, but those are really made 100% whole wheat or made with whole grains and nuts and seeds. And actually, because those breads are denser, you end up also often feeling fuller on a smaller piece. You're not eating like 10 slices of white bread at one time, but a good piece, you can actually feel satiated. You can feel full, and your good gut bugs are using that bread and still breaking it down and still taking it slower to break down. So it won't raise your blood sugar levels as quickly either. And the fact that you can enjoy your fruits as well, which is what you crave, because many people are so worried about eating the apples, eating the oranges, eating fruits that will raise their blood sugar levels because they have previously been on a high protein, high fat, low carb diet, or they have the issues with the diabetes or blood sugar levels, and they are so afraid of eating more carbohydrates coming from fruits, especially. So it's wonderful to hear from your experience that it's not the case and you're actually still seeing improvements in your blood sugar levels even despite that. So thank you for all that you have shared so far, Winona. I'm excited to delve more into your plant-based diet journey and the changes you've experienced in your health. I would love to continue this conversation with you again in a part 2 episode. So listeners, please stay tuned for part 2 of this fascinating interview.
Thank you.
I hope you feel empowered and encouraged to see what eating a whole food plant based diet can potentially do to one's health. If you're now excited to learn more about plant based eating, and want to explore how it could truly help your specific situation with your current health challenges, I invite you to reach out and connect with me. Send me an email at healthnow@plantnourish.com or apply for a free rapid health transformation call using the link in the show notes. Let's transform your health and life together through the power of whole plant-based foods. Thank you for listening to the Plant-Based Eating Made Easy podcast. If this podcast has helped you, please take a moment to rate and leave a written review on the Apple Podcast app or on iTunes. Knowing how this podcast has made a difference in your life never fails to light me up. I may also select your review to be read on the show. Remember that moving to plant-based eating can be simple and doable, even with your existing health challenges and busy lifestyle. If you have a plant-based diet question you'll like me to answer on this show, share that question with me using the contact options in the show notes. Thanks for joining me today, and I can't wait to connect with you again in the next episode. Until next time, keep plant-focused and thriving, my friend.